Okay, there we go.
Hey, before I call this meeting to order, I'd like to welcome Catherine to the team. We're thrilled to announce the appointment of Catherine Alloway as our new CAO for the Village of Silverton. Catherine brings a wealth of experience and a fresh perspective to our community, and we are confident that she will be an invaluable asset to our village. As much as I have enjoyed this role, gaining firsthand experience in the office and with our infrastructure, I'm excited to return to my role as mayor. This transition lets me focus on the village's vision while Catherine handles the day-to-day administration. The knowledge I've gained will help aid me as a mayor. I'd also like to extend a huge thank you to Elsie. Without her, I'm not sure we would be where we are today. She's been instrumental in helping the village of Silverton get back on its feet and has supported me personally through some challenges that I've been facing. Her dedication and hard work have been a profound impact on our community, and we owe her a debt of gratitude. And with that, I'd like to call the meeting to order at 7:01. The Village of Silverton acknowledges the Indigenous people on whose traditional territories we stand. We do have an addition of late item, the AKBLG conference attendance. Can I get somebody to move the adoption of the agenda as amended? Councillor Main, seconded by Councillor Denbach. All in favor? Carried. We got some adoption of the minutes for the regular council meeting held on January 8th, 2025 and January 31st, 2025. Can I get somebody to move those minutes? Councillor Broughton, seconded by Councillor Denbach. All in favor? Carried. No delegations. On to new business. We have a recommendation that Catherine Alloway be appointed as CAO, Corporate Officer, Deputy Financial Officer, and Approving Officer for the Village of Silverton, and that Catherine Alloway be added as an authorized signatory for the Village of Silverton at Kootenay Savings Credit Union, Central One Credit Union, and the Municipal Finance Authority. Can I get somebody to move that? Councillor Denbach, seconded by Councillor Main. Any discussion? All in favor? Carried. Preparation of the 2024 financial statements. Can I get somebody to move that council approve the expenditure of up to $5,000 for Childs Chanton to prepare the 2024 year-end financial statements? Councillor Denbach, seconded by Councillor Mills. Any discussion? Councillor Main?
Yeah, I just would like to say that this is a good approach given where we're at now and where we need to get to. And I am certain that we won't need to repeat this next year.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried. Okay, next up is the new Denver Silverton Clean BC Organics Funding Program application. We have a motion to move that the Village of Silverton participate in the Village of New Denver's application to the Clean BC Organics Funding Program, and further that the Village of Silverton contribute up to $600 per unit plus applicable taxes, freight, and installation costs for 2 additional bear-proof composters if the application is successful. Can I get somebody to move that? Councillor Denbach, seconded by Councillor Main. Any discussion? Councillor Main?
Yeah, I had a phone call from Councillor Hammond in the middle of supper saying that New Denver had enthusiastically voted to proceed with this and that they are adding another Jura can onto it. So they'll do 2 in the first year and 2 in the second year. And there will be opportunity for us to figure out with them whether we want our 2 in the first year or if we want 1 and then 1 next year. So it seems to be receiving a very positive response. I think it's a great program.
Councillor Broughton, go ahead.
We're talking about the green compost bins, are we? That
Yeah.
And so if we get two, we're paying $600 for each one? Is
That's
that
what it's, yeah.
okay, okay, just double checking.
Okay.
Figured that was it.
Any further discussion? Councillor Mills?
Yep. Don't we already have a couple in the village already?
Yeah, we have I think we got 4 right currently.
Yeah.
So these would be additional.
Yeah, I don't see a need for any more. We got to be more fiscally responsible. I think tough times are coming myself.
Councillor Dimbuck, go ahead.
I tend to agree with that. Do we have any data on how well used the current ones are?
Councillor Main, go ahead.
We have a complete report from the Healthy Community Society, which I'll be presenting during my report. And while the Joricans don't get huge use during the winter, in the spring, the summer, and the fall, they do, and they are constantly getting full before the guy can come to clean them out again. The campers use them. They're very well used, and we are functioning at top capacity for the amount of equipment we have during the spring and summer and fall.
Councillor Dimbuck, go ahead.
Does it have to be all or nothing proposition, or can we go for one rather than two?
CAO Alloway? Yeah, good to go.
Am I good?
Yeah.
Okay. So I think that the reason that this was added to the agenda was that we have an opportunity to make these purchases at this time using entirely grant funding rather than municipal revenues or taxation to do the procurement. So it would be 2/3 funding from the Clean BC Organics program that that New Denver is applying to. And then there is also funding available from a grant that was received several years ago and needs to be wrapped up by March 31st of 2025.
Go ahead, Councillor Mills.
Yeah, that grant that has to be wrapped up by March 31st, 2025. Can we use those funds for something else?
The grant was intended to cover wayfinding signage at the campground, and it can be expanded, I think, to cover related amenities. And so if one of the Joricans was placed at the campground, it would be an eligible expense in that way. So yes, we may be able to use it for some other things, but the timelines are pretty tight. I think it was supposed to be spent 2 years ago initially, and it's been extended a couple of times. So yeah, the original scope was for wayfinding signage. And my understanding is that there's a need for additional signage at the campground, that what's currently there is not in good repair. And so that was in the absence of any further direction from council, which I'm happy to take, that was sort of the default plan to move forward quickly on this project and at least get something for the village of Silverton rather than having to return the funds.
Thank you.
Councillor Broughton, go ahead.
Yeah, what responsibility do we have for these things once they're installed? Well, not just for the bins, but the area around it, is the upkeep of that, like we've got to keep the grass down, stuff like that. Is that up to us or up to whoever's in charge of the program?
I would imagine it's like every other compost. It's on our property, so it would be something that we would mow and maintain to begin with. So that shouldn't be too much of an issue. And they come and they deal with everything to do with it. They come and they turn it and they add their stuff. And Councillor Main.
Yeah, also in terms of funding for this, if we decide not to use the wayfinding money for these, we have somewhere in the neighborhood of $70,000 sitting in Regional District of Central Kootenay community development funds that we have not touched for years. And we could use that money, some of that money, for this. So it wouldn't be, it would not affect our taxation or our, any other costs for the year.
Councillor Mills.
Councillor Broughton, I'm thinking what you had mentioned about the bins and the maintenance of the bins. My question is placement of the bins. Where are we going to put them? Are they going to be around residents that may not be too favorable to have these around their home? Do we know where we're going to put them?
I believe the one plan for one of them was at the campground because then we could use that part of that wayfinding grant.
Yeah.
As for the second one, I'm not too sure if even that's a plan yet.
We did have the same discussion about where to put them when the program started. And it took a little bit of going around and talking with folks to find people who were willing to have them at their property, but on village, on the village boulevard near their property. It was not that difficult to find places for them. And after what, it's either 5 or 6 years, we now know where the high usage areas are. So we could make a better educated selection of where to put them. And we have plenty of time to make that decision.
Any further discussion? All in favor? All opposed? Did you want to be recorded as opposed?
Yep. All my votes get recorded.
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't like,
And Councillor Broughton's opposed?
yep.
And 3-2, it's carried. On to the next one is an expression of interest from the Columbia Basin Trust. REACH program that the Village of Silverton submit an expression of interest for $50,000 in funding from the CBT REACH program. Can I get somebody to move that? Councillor Denbach, seconded by Councillor Mills. Any discussion? Councillor Denbach?
I think we have an awful lot on our plate, and this is kind of as, you know, it may apply to, I don't know, in a whole year, 5 people that might benefit from this. I don't know what the number is, but we're such a tiny community. And what is the number of people that might be served by this?
Are you talking about the REACH programming or are you jumping to the next one?
I think
The REACH program?
the
Okay.
REACH program, yeah.
For
Yeah.
50,000? I think this could actually reach a number of people because it depends on what we use it for.
Maybe I'm confused about which.
You might be talking about the wood stove
No,
reduction?
no, I'm talking about the REACH one, and that is for disadvantaged and so on individuals, right? Youth.
Yes. I think our CAO can give us a little bit more information on this and it would probably help council.
So the CBT has a REACH program and it will pay for capital improvements to recreation facilities with an emphasis on making things more accessible to people who are either neurodivergent or have some alternate ability, and generally focusing on youth up to age of 19. Now, of course, that doesn't necessarily mean that other residents of the community wouldn't also enjoy the benefits of the projects that result from this funding. I think that Columbia Basin Trust is getting really close to the end of their fiscal year and is trying to move money out the door, and they recognize that it's a really short turnaround and there's not a requirement to know at this point what the funding would be used for. The Village of New Denver is proposing to engage with the target audience and bring some ideas out of that can then be considered by council, and council is going to have ultimately the decision on what projects are going to move forward. And I think that obviously, if we can't identify as a reasonable project that meets the needs of council, the funds would be returned. But at this point, I would recommend that we can use, I think, up to 15% of the project budget or of the funding for planning and design. So that would allow us to spend a little bit of money figuring out if this is a good idea. And that can be money that could be spent on consultants or on additional staff to decide whether or not this is something that fits in with council's priorities.
Councillor Mills?
Yeah, my concern are two things. Firstly is the capacity of our staff, yourself and staff to handle this, like Councilor Denmark mentioned. Secondly is I definitely would recommend not going over 50,000 to provide funding up to 50. If we do have programs and you guys can handle it, not a dollar more than 50 is what I would want.
Councillor Demba.
Yeah, the big question for me too is capacity. And I think until we get our sidewalks fixed for the rest of, for 99% of us to walk on, we should focus on those kind of things and not the things that might serve perhaps less than 1% of the population.
See.
I would say, Madam Mayor, that it may be that this could be used for sidewalk repair. For example, I think that it's pretty wide open at this point, and the trust has indicated that they are trying to meet the needs of small local governments by not requiring an onerous application process. I looked at the expression of interest form and I filled it out in about 3 minutes. And so that is the sort of approach that is really beneficial to small communities. And I don't know what kind of feedback we're going to get from the target population, but for me, it can be a range of things. It could include making improvements to existing buildings to make them more, like, I think that it's not supposed to really fund accessibility requirements and that are required under the building code, but it can fund things like better soundproofing. Because if you have people that, I don't know, those were just some of the examples. I don't want to like get too far into it, but it seemed like it was really, really wide open. And the trust was keen to support small communities in this way.
Is this something you feel staff can take on? Do you have the capacity to do it?
I think so, because the preliminary work's going to be done by New Denver, which is a nice partnership to be in. They're going to do that anyway. And so for them to reach out to the school and some of the people in the community that would be most benefiting from this, they can just throw in another line that says, we'd love to hear your ideas for Silverton too. So it's not much of an ask in terms of incremental workload for them. And if it does reach the point that we want to run with it, then we have up to 15% of the project of the $50,000 that can be used to either hire a dedicated project manager or bring on additional staff for the specific project. So I would say that saying yes to the expression of interest carries very little risk with it, and that we're going to have a bunch of discussions about council's priorities. And as that happens, and as the initial consultation for this program continues, we'll have a better idea of how feasible it is to actually deliver the program. But I would say at this point, my recommendation would be to proceed cautiously.
Councillor Broughton?
You know, if this would allow be usable for something like playground upgrade?
I believe it might be.
I'm just small thing for the smallest part of our population. I understand that, but I figure the most important part of our population is we need a proper slide for kids. What we ended up with, unfortunately, was just, I won't get into it, but I know there's a lot of important things to be done that money is needed for in this town, but you'd be hard pressed to convince me any of it is more important than the kids. So I just want to put that out there.
Councillor Mann, go ahead.
When I was reading over this, my mind kept going to that recreation area where we have the kids' playground, the tennis court, the remnants of a one-up basketball pitch, and some pretty poor pathway between that and the Creekside campground where some of our events actually happen. So I think there's some reasonable things that could be used for in Silverton, that it would not be a stretch to say, this is making it easier for kids of all kinds of abilities, mental and physical. Um, yeah, I'll leave that there.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried. Okay, on to number 5, that the Village of Silverton participate in the 2025 RDCK Community Wood Smoke Reduction Program and provide $100 in funding per stove exchanged to a maximum of 5. Can I get somebody to move? Councillor Main, seconded by Councillor Denbrook. Any discussion? No discussion? All in favor? Carried. Okay, the RDCK EDMA Indigenous Engagement Project Memorandum of Understanding that the mayor and corporate officer be authorized to sign the MOU dated February 21st, 2025 between the RDCK and the Village of Silverton regarding the Emergency and Disaster Management Act Indigenous Engagement Requirement Project. And further, that the Village of Silverton transfer $40,000 to the Regional District of Central Kootenay for the purpose of managing pooled Indigenous engagement funds on behalf of participating municipalities in meeting the engagement requirements under EDMA. Somebody move that, please. Councillor Main, seconded by Councillor Broughton. Any discussion? Councillor Main.
This is a program that is required by the province and is funded by the province. So that $40,000 that they're asking us to transfer is money that is coming from the province exactly for that. And I cannot imagine a world right now in which Silverton has the capacity of doing the work involved in this program.
Councillor Mills.
So is the vote to either handle it ourselves or let RDCK handle it? That's the question? Okay, thanks.
Missed the answer to that.
The answer is yes, that is the arrangement. I can add that, what we're talking about right now in this motion is the first phase of funding. So there's been $40,000 that's been awarded to all communities in British Columbia to do this. There will also be a second round of funding that is available. But in order to access that funding, we have to spend this $40,000 by March 31st of 2025. And then that makes us eligible for a further $40,000 to be spent before March 31st, 2026. So we can choose to partner with the regional district on this first phase. And then if there are any gaps that we identify that we need to hire outside consultants in order to complete the work, we can use the second round of funding to do that piece of work.
Councillor Broughton, go ahead.
What are these engagements about? What are we talking to the Indigenous community about here?
So I think that it's going to engage with First Nations to talk about how they would like to be consulted in terms of either planning for disasters or local government response to disasters. That is one of the requirements under the new EDMA, the Emergency Disaster Management Act. I guess it's been identified that it's often marginalized populations that are hardest hit in case of an emergency. And so there's some really interesting and progressive language in the act that is requiring local governments to take that into consideration and try to improve the outcomes for all marginalized populations. There's also a lot of language in there about being respectful of Indigenous culture and the finding ways to engage with them that are, I guess, respectful and meet their needs as well as the needs of local government. So it's a real departure from past practice on the part of the province and how emergencies are going to be handled. And I think it's really positive that they've decided to fund this work at the local government level.
Are we talking about the way we do things in town, or are we talking about the outlying areas?
For this, it would just be Village of Silverton's response. So it would be making sure that our emergency management plans are not going to conflict with Indigenous culture or I don't know what the right word would be there, but with their activities. So it's to get alignment between what we're doing within our boundaries and what their needs are.
Councillor Min?
So there are two lines of thought going through my head in response to that. And during the last series of disasters that have occurred in British Columbia, both fire and flood and mudslides, a significant number of Indigenous communities were not taken care of while a local government, a settler community had the funding and had the resources and took care of their community, but a community just down the road that did not qualify was Indigenous. And there was a pattern that was observed that makes it really apparent that we need to do better. Secondly, when a disaster hits, it rarely, if ever, respects the boundaries of a municipality or even of an electoral area. It follows the geography, the topography, the prevailing winds, the prevailing waters. So we need to not be overlooking any potential partner in responding to disasters, emergencies. And that goes both ways because they can be very, very helpful to us. The Indigenous communities have knowledge that we don't have because they have history with oftentimes have history with a particular geography that spans many, many, many generations, and so they know things about how the animals and how the waters and how the trees and how the winds behave and what can be done to capture them, to protect against them, that we have not learned yet. So it's an opportunity to work with a community that may have knowledge that we don't have, to address historic inequities, and to create a partnership moving forward that would benefit all of us.
Any further discussion?
Give me a second. Okay, there's no other way to put this. And no, I'm not racist in any way, shape, or form. Have Native friends, but it just seems that every single thing we try to do anymore, we have to ask them. And in some cases, it comes down to, okay, you own a piece of property, but can you put a septic tank in there? Stuff like that. I would like to see people just, we're all one people. We're all one race. We're the human race. And I'd like to see us start to act more like it, rather than, okay, the whole group should decide, and rather than, well, no, one smaller group can dictate what we want to do or what we're going to do. It just seems that, like I say, everything we do, we're talking about in Silverton. If there's Native people here, great. I've got, come on to the meetings, can give everybody your opinion. But I just, too often I see things being held up because of, you got to consultations with each group separately. I don't know. It's I hope you get what I'm saying. I just I'm not against consulting with the natives, but let's all shorten the process, let's say, by let's all get together in one group. Let's not just, okay, how do we deal with this one? How do we deal with that one? Let's deal with all of us the same way as human beings, as, like I say, one planet, one race. The human race is what we need on this planet, and cooperation amongst them.
Thanks for those comments, Don. I think a lot of us feel the same way on that. This is a provincial requirement though, so our hands are kind of tied on whether we don't have a choice. We got to do this.
Yeah.
So the question is the Village of Silverton going to partner with RDCK on this, or are we going to try to take it on ourselves? Any further discussion?
Just this?
Yeah, go ahead, Councilor.
I would say in response to Don's comments, I do, you know, I get some frustration with the bureaucracy and all of that, but on the other hand, I think this is an attempt to include people that have been excluded, so it becomes more one people, as you're saying, rather than us and them excluded.
Any further discussion, or can I call the question? Oh, question? No, you got a question?
So the question is,
The question is that the mayor and corporate officer be authorized to sign the MOU dated September 21st between the Regional District of Central Kootenay and the Village of Silverton regarding EDMA. And further, that the Village of Silverton transfer $40,000 to the RDCK for the purpose of managing pooled Indigenous engagement funds on behalf of the participating municipalities and meeting the engagement requirements under EDMA. Okay.
Yep.
Call the question. All in favor? Carried. Okay. On to number 7, AKBLG conference attendance. We are looking for confirmation that Mayor Gordon, Councillor Denbach, Councillor Main be authorized to attend the AKBLG conference in Kimberley on April 24th or 25th to the 27th with expenses paid pursuant to the municipal policy. And I'm also looking for if you are going to be able to attend on the 24th or if 25th is the date. Can I get somebody to move? Councillor Brunton? Seconded by Councillor Main. Discussion? Councillor Main?
I think we do need to decide how many of us are interested in attending the pre-session on the 24th so that we can arrange or not to carpool.
I am not able to make that day, but I will be there on the 25th. So if you
Okay.
two want to go, that's not a problem. We can extend the room and I can't see an issue with that one. So
Okay.
yeah, it's.
I was not planning to attend 24th.
I'm not going to drive up there separately, so I guess I won't attend either.
Okay, so from the 25th to the 27th, any further discussion? All in favor? Carried. Correspondence for information. We have the CBT Ready Grant application process, which closes very soon. If you know of anybody that wants to apply for it, I think they are still accepting applications. And like last year, the council will oversee the community discussion. The community can come forward and give their thoughts. We can talk about how to proceed next year. New Denver is doing a little bit different with the community engagement process. We could probably join in with them on that one, but we can discuss that more in 2026. Do you need a resolution on that one? No? Okay. Canada Post Review, that's pretty straightforward. Office of the Information and Privacy Commissioner, that's pretty straightforward too. RDCK Disaster Resilience and Innovation Funding Program Proposal. Can I get somebody to move the correspondence has been received? Councillor Mills, seconded by Councillor Main. All in favor? Carried. Did anybody want to pull anything for discussion? No? Okay, on to, go ahead, Councillor
I'm
Main.
not sure exactly what it is that they're, why we are being asked about this. It just,
Item number 4,
yeah,
the drift application.
the Salmo floodplain bylaw review.
Yeah, so regional district, I believe they're taking it to the February board meeting to request board approval for an application. This is their first phase of the project, and they are going to be looking at sort of the policy and regulations that are in place at the regional district and seeing whether those are able to be sort of extended to a municipality.
Okay.
And Salmo is going to be the test case. And so the correspondence went out to sort of give all the member municipalities the heads up that this is something that the regional district is working towards.
Okay.
And we can indicate interest if council so desires in possibly being involved in a second phase of it. But at this point, there's no commitment and there's no,
Yeah.
this is just for
Okay.
information.
Thank you.
Okay, on to council reports. I have a bit of a verbal report. On January 20th, I sat in on a wildfire debrief with New Denver, Slocan, and I believe she's Area A, Amy Watson from the Argenta Lardo area. This was put on by consultants hired by the RDCK, and we talked about the successes and challenges we faced during the wildfires and where we felt more attention needed to be focused on in the future. There'll be a public debrief, not involving the villages, but through RDCK in the next few months. So watch the RDCK webpage for more information on that, and I'll be sure to share that when I get it too. February 3rd, our new CAO came on board, so I did a rollover and update with Catherine, and we also met with Amanda Murphy, our new CBT liaison, who explained a little bit about the REACH program that we just heard about earlier. And then on February 6th, I attended a meeting with our MLA, Brittany Anderson, a few council members, and our new CAO. We spoke to a few issues that we're experiencing locally, including road maintenance of our FSRs, the need for government to allow more community forest partners, and the need to help more smaller power suppliers supplying where they can, especially in our area with so many power fluctuations. She seemed pretty receptive, and I look forward to future meetings with her. And that's all for my report. Councillor Broughton, go ahead.
Yeah, I put in my report there. Sorry about the format. But anyway, yeah, with the Arena Society meeting that I went to, they're hoping we will deal with their lease. They would like it to say the same. I thought I was going to have a list by today, and I forgot to phone somebody about it, there are apparently a few repairs that are not huge, but necessary. And I think that's, the only other thing was, apparently there's a roll of lumber paper, like they cover bundles of lumber with, like you get them at the store, in our garage that belongs to the Arena. They would like to keep storing it there because they don't have any place to put it, but they would like us to not use it because they think some has been used. Probably just because we didn't know whose it was, but just a small thing that I told them I would bring up. And they wanted to make sure the hydro deal was still going to be happening the way it is with council. I think that was about it for the Arena meeting. The other meeting was the Housing Society, and I see I spelled Aiden's name wrong. I should have looked back at but Aiden McLaren Cole from the Cusp was there on behalf of the Arrow Housing Society. And what they're doing is they're all having trouble getting money. They can get little bits for something but what they want to do is get some cooperation going amongst the different societies down here, Caslo, Slocan, all of them, so that if they can all get a little bit for a coordinator, which is one of the things they're looking for. They don't all need a coordinator for, like, it might be just a few hours. So if they can get enough money together and hire one coordinator to cover all their groups is what they would like to do. So that's mostly what he was down here talking about, and also talking about the happy pad. Um, I don't know just if it's a society, but anyway, what it is people that instead of you having people come and say, hey, I want to rent your house, and you got to be the one to figure out are these good ones, bad ones, the same with not just the renters, but the person renting. They'll vet them. They will check them out. They will give you a list. Okay, these are the people in your area looking for some place, or these are the people that have places, and they'll come and say to you, okay, these ones here we have checked into and seen legit, whatever. Um, I'm not sure why it's been put on hold for the moment, but that is one of the things that they seem to think would benefit the whole group if something like that was going. I think that's pretty much it. They're still looking for places to buy or develop for low income housing. Well, not basically the way the Osprey was set up. There is some talk about laneway housing. Um, all of it in the future. Did I miss anything, Jan? Anyway, I'll leave it there. I try to get all I can out of these, but it's hard for me to write and listen at the same time. So my notes sometimes don't even work for me. Anyway, thank you.
Thanks, Don. Councillor Denbach. Oh, Councillor Denbach.
Nothing to report.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Main.
Yeah, so you would have received with your agenda package, two documents from the Healthy Community Society of North Slocan Valley regarding the organic waste diversion project. That's the composters. This program has been running for several years. The ongoing work of it is supported through taxation in the amount of a total of, from our taxation area, $3,900 a year approximately. That helps pay for the secondary level of that the composting has to go through. It gives some of the statistics that they have roughly 240 individual year-round participants who are signed up. There are more people using the Jora cans than have actually signed up for it. Plus school and staff population of 115 regular users, and they serve greater numbers over the summer months. About 120 residences are served year-round, and that's based on the numbers of people who have actually signed up, keeping in mind that more people use it than have signed up for it. The return on investment for those people who have signed up is that we get buckets of finished compost several times a year. It's supposed to be twice a year. I think I got 4 rounds of finished compost last year that I can add to my garden that I can use to cover the composting that I do at home. This has helped to deflect the bear-human conflict activity. It has helped deflect some of the rodent population problems that we've been having, although not as successfully as it has diverted the bears. This is the program that the other grant program wants to piggyback onto and get more Jora cans. Where we live, it's not reasonable to expect us to join in the composting activities that are happening around Nelson, Creston, Salmo, Castlegar, where the distances where they have to truck the compost are much shorter. So that it effectively leaves us out of regional district sponsored and supported composting programs. This is an incredibly creative solution to how do small far-flung communities compost when not everybody can properly handle having compost in their yards, because not everybody has enough material or has enough muscle and backbone to turn things. I highly encourage you to read the documents all the way through and gain some understanding of how this group and us as a community are handling what could be a really nasty problem. Plus the fact that we are being encouraged and will be legislated in the future to divert organics from the landfills and the transfer stations. We have cut down the amount of organics going into our transfer stations by a very noticeable amount. And this feeds into managing the bear and the raven population, and is it's just a much better solution to food waste, bad waste and good waste. I mean, when you buy a cauliflower, you have to take all of those leaves off it. That's good food waste. Anyway, I encourage you to read this. I fully support this program. And it is getting noticed by CASLO, by NACUSP even, and they may have an opportunity to participate in a bigger composting project, because they're enough bigger a community that they would be able to do it. Other than that, I attended numerous meetings, regional district meetings, the Community Sustainable Living Advisory Committee that does a number of different projects through the year, and I provide here our year in review. I was previously the chair of this advisory committee, and I relinquished that position to Director Kelly Vandenberg from the Creston area. I also attended Regional District Rural Affairs Committee last month, which is just, I find it very interesting and very educational, and is where I first heard about, temporary use permits and other planning skills and documents that I would not have run into as a municipal councillor. West Kootenay Boundary Regional Hospital District Board was as usual, a mixture of really interesting and really dry and really shocking big numbers that we deal with, because we are asked on an ongoing basis, and by we, I mean the whole, all of the communities that are part of this hospital district, which is several of the electoral areas, plus Castlegar, Caslow, NACUSP, Nelson, New Denver, Salmo, Silverton, and Slocan. We get asked on an ongoing basis to provide 40% of the funding for the capital costs of all of our medical facilities. So that can be a lot of, that can be millions of dollars that we are asked to provide, and we generate that money through taxation. We helped finance the ongoing redevelopment of the Trail Regional Hospital and of the Nelson Regional Hospital, that are regional hubs for certain different types of treatment that we can't get in our home community. We also have to put money aside for future years when we know that there's 2 more phases of the trail hospital redevelopment that will, we've already put $20 million. We have put $20 million into that. And that's 40% of what has gone into it so far. And there's 2 more phases of development. So we're trying to build our equity, build our funds to be able to contribute to these to the capital costs of our medical system. We also just got some new equipment in both Trail and Nelson, CT scan equipment, more newer, better X-ray equipment. It boggles the mind to be juggling, it's like, oh, 10 million here, 20 million there. But this is how we gain the energy and the to keep the ball moving on developing and redeveloping our medical facilities. Without our contribution, which comes from taxation of our 65,000 people who live in this area, it keeps our hospitals, helps keep our hospitals open. I also attended the board meeting and joint resource recovery meetings, and under discussion once again was the 10% increase in tipping fees, which I spoke against and voted against, but it was passed anyway. But I did I made sure that the village of Silverton voice was heard about it, that this is, we don't want to pay another 10%. And it's going to go up again next year and the year after that. In part, it's because of escalating costs and escalating requirements from the province. It's not just, oh, there's a dump, we're just going to dump everything into it. Those where our refuse gets put, we're required by statute to monitor the leachates coming out of that, what's going into the ground, how far is it spreading, is it contaminating any waterways, are the off gases being gathered, or are they just going into the air, especially methane? Is there any opportunity to capture any of those gases and combine them with natural gas? We've been in ongoing discussions with Fortis about that. But, our 10% this year and another 10%, I'm sure next year, helps move all of that along. I tried. Those were the highlights. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Leah. Councillor Mills.
First, thanks, Leah, for submitting our proposal to the 10% increase. When I went to the dump a few weeks ago and found out that the cost of garbage was up,
Yep.
I knew that we didn't win, but I appreciate your efforts.
Yeah.
No written report, basically a verbal. I attended the February 6th meeting with MLA Anderson, with Mayor, Councillor Denbach, and a new CAO. I found it to be a good meeting. She seemed quite receptive to our concerns, and hopefully we can develop that relationship. And that's it.
Great. Thanks. Okay, on to bylaws. We have the fees and charges bylaw number 549, 2025. Hopefully council read the staff report, and we have a couple options here. I would like somebody on council to move one of the options. We have four options here. Increase water and garbage rates by 10%, and a special meeting will be scheduled for adoption. Increase water and garbage by 5% or some other amount to be specified, and the special meeting will be scheduled for adoption. Do not increase water or garbage rates for 2025, or refer back to staff for further review and report. Can I get somebody to move one of those motions, please? Councillor May?
I will move option 1.
Okay, on the table is increase rates by 10%. Can I get a second? I'll second that. Okay, any discussion? Councillor Main, go ahead.
Yeah, having spoken against raising the tipping fees by 10%, the reason I am moving a 10% increase to our water and garbage rates is I know some of the costs that are coming down to us in the next few years. And with our water rates particularly, we need to be building a reserve fund, which we have not really been doing adequately for the last few years. So I'm willing to suck it up and pay a little bit more on my property taxes this year towards being able to afford to have clean water and proper disposal of our garbage.
Okay, thank you, Leah. Any further discussion? No further discussion? All in favor? All opposed? Councillor Denbach, are you abstaining? You are abstaining? CAO, yeah.
Okay, an abstention counts as a vote in favor or in the affirmative.
Okay. Okay, so all in favor? Carried? Carried. Okay, on to public input period.
And do we have to schedule a?
Oh,
yeah.
Yes, thank you, Leah. CAO Alloway, did you have a date in mind or?
I've suggested 4:00 on Tuesday, February 18th, but open to alternative dates if that's not going to work. We will need to have quorum for that, so it would be great to know whether we're going to have quorum for that.
Okay, Councillor May?
I will be in Nelson all of next week at regional district meetings. I would try to zoom in on that, but
Maybe not.
maybe not be able to.
I can be there.
I'll be out of town.
Okay.
Sorry, what was the date?
Tuesday, the 18th at 4.
I can be there.
You can be there?
It
Dawn
could
can
be
be
pretty
there?
quick.
Okay, and I can be there, so we can make quorum. Okay. And do we need to,
A motion for
Motion
that
for
would be
that.
helpful,
Okay.
and then I'll do the advertising so that.
can I get somebody to move that? Councillor Broughton, second by Councillor Main. All in favor? Carried.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So we did the first, second, and third readings, correct? Okay.
And on to public input period. Jen?
No, the only comment is that I really have a hard time doing you guys. I don't know if Jay does, if that comment's for you.
Yeah.
I have a hard time getting that. Yeah, like, you know, they were close to my last night, but.
Next time, maybe just like.
Okay.
Okay.
That's all.
Okay, thank you. Anybody online have any comments, questions? Seeing none, I will get a motion to exclude the public. Can I get somebody to move the recommendation that pursuant to section 90.1 of the community charter, the meeting held tonight be closed to the public on a basis of subject matter of all agenda items to be considered related to items listed under section 90.1. Councillor Main, seconded by Councillor Broughton. All in favor? Great. Yeah.
Good night, Jen.
Yeah.